The home stretch, the final four of the 2024 New England Patriots season begins this Sunday at a rather infamous location, wouldn't you know? That's right. The New England Patriots travel out to the desert, Glendale, Arizona, site of two of the most well-known Patriots games in history. One worth remembering, and the other supposedly that happened. The Patriots have four chances left on the season to right the ship, prevent Gerard Mayo from facing an offseason of scrutiny, prove to people that Elliott Wolf is good at his job, and make sure that they keep the franchise from North Carolina upright on his feet and continuing to develop at a rapid rate. This is a live Six Rings and Football Things preview pod of the New England Patriots taking on the Arizona Cardinals. And joining me today for the first time live on Six Rings is none other than Mego herself, Miss Megan Ottolini, alongside your old pal, Nick Fitzy Stevens. Mego, this is long overdue, and I'm so glad you could make it.
Thank you for having me. I'm coming to you from South Boston, and you said Elliott Wolf. I have a little wolf behind me, my Siberian Husky. So if she pops up at any time, just know that I know there is a small wolf in my house.
Is Elliott Wolf more capable of actually drafting good players and finding a receiver for the
You know
Patriots
what?
than
She
Elliott Wolf?
does. Well, I don't know. She does look suspiciously like a previous drafter, Nike Belichick, who didn't do the best job, as I recall, in that 2020 draft. So
No, as a
no
matter of fact,
promises.
I know everybody went hyper viral, crushing on Nike the dog back then, and that draft pick. As a matter of fact, I think only really one player from that draft stuck as well. That was Kyle Duggar, and even still, I think his hold on the starting strong safety job is pretty tenuous at best, given how he's kind of overpaid for what he's delivered on this season. But this is not a draft referendum at this point. We've got plenty of time to legislate what the Patriots have done and need to do going forward. This is a preview pod, and we're here to talk about uh, one of our regular viewers and listeners on the show, Jeff Stenberg, wanted you to know he is officially starting a petition to have Mego permanently replace Angry Andy. So you've already made fans in just the first couple of minutes, Mego. Good job.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Jeff.
Yes. All right. So the Pats had the bye. Didn't mean that the Patriots news cycle took a break. Obviously, you had over the week. Let's see. We had Cole Strange officially returning. He should be in the lineup this coming Sunday. The Patriots finally bid farewell to KJ Osborne. He latches on with your Washington Commanders. Joey Sly, who's 27th in field goal accuracy in the league, unfortunately, this year. They bring in John Parker Romo, who had a stint with the Vikings this year, to challenge him for the kicking job. There's comings and goings. This is like business as usual for the Patriots now, is constantly having to keep your head on a swivel because somebody else may be taking your job. No one's really doing a great job. And it feels like a perennial audition for every single job on the team, Mego, save for quarterback. And now there's four more chances for people to basically prove they belong on the team, aside from Drake May and Christian Gonzalez next season.
Absolutely. I think it was really interesting at the beginning of the week. Coming back from the bye, they had this availability that they don't usually hold on Mondays with the players in person. And Austin Hooper talked a lot about what's at stake for the last 4 games of the season. And what he really talked about was professionalism, saying like guys can decide at this point in the season if they're planning out their all inclusive to Cancun or if they're going to be planning out their game week. And that's kind of an individual decision that everybody needs to make to prove that they're a grown up in this league and prove for themselves. And I honestly like it's a very insightful remark from Austin Hooper, who's somebody who I've come to really enjoy talking to over this season in the locker room. But it also doesn't really speak well of the stakes of individuals on the team outside of Drake May. You're at a point where it's like, your prove it moment is that you're going to be professional and take this seriously and remain competitive down the stretch. I know there's a side of this that's human nature that we talk about in sports, but it's just there's something about that leaves a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth.
But at the same time, he is like the quintessence of like professional journeyman too. He's played for 5-6 different teams. He's only on a 1-year deal. I've previously highlighted that Austin Hooper would be one of the people that who has actually done a good enough job this year to prove to me that he's worth bringing back next year. And I would maybe offer him as you look to develop somebody behind Hunter Henry and hopefully Austin Hooper. at the tight end position, I might offer him a 2-year deal that's a bit more front loaded just to see if you can get one more quality season out of him, because he's tied for the team lead in touchdowns with
I know.
3, which is hardly the most glorious stat, but he literally goes out there and does his job. And
He has nice makeup too. I think that he has the right approach, he has the right attitude, and that's not the easiest thing to have when you're on a 1-year contract with a team in the state that they're in.
right. Hart and I on the last podcast a couple days ago, we tried to figure which 10 Patriots, if you could pick 10, which 10 Patriots are absolute locks for the 2025 roster. And you can't keep Drake May or Gonzo because they're going to be,
Oh god.
and it's kind of
Okay.
tough.
Did you get to 6 outside of that?
Some people on Twitter are like, "Oh, it's easy. I can give you 20." Like, it's not as easy as you think. It's not as because like you could name it. Christian Barmore, should he stay healthy? Yes, he's a keeper. Cole
Okay.
Strange may supplant David Andrews at center for all we know. Not to say that he's half the player David Andrews is, and this is not a forum to discuss why they might move on from David Andrews, but the poor guy has missed 2 whole seasons in the last 5 years, and he's coming off major reconstructive shoulder surgery. Like, I don't know if Bear's going to be able to bring it again. So there's uncertainty with him. Name a receiver that has earned a spot next year.
I would still say Demario Douglas. I just am not totally sure about how they're using him right now.
Mhm.
I mean, I know that it seems like he's had a lot of inconsistencies with the timing of the running of his routes, and I think that's something that is a disappointing development over the
Mhm.
season or lack of development, but I still think that he probably has the most, for lack of a better word, like pop out of any of your receivers. And I'd like
Mhm.
to see him be your little speedy slot guy going forward. But you really only get the most out of that guy if you have somebody who's a proper X receiver, which you haven't had in
No.
like a decade.
You really haven't. The story came out over the bye week as well. I think it was a Chad Graff in the Athletic that said the Patriots are gonna refuse to be outbid for T. Higgins, which I'm sure T. Higgins' agent loved to hear as well. There'll be a lot of teams that'll be bidding for his services. It's going to be up to him if he wants to try to push it, to whatever realm of Juan Soto-esque money he thinks he can get, and it's probably going to be premium dollar, and he'll get wildly overpaid. But that's because the Pats can't draft a receiver to save their lives. To me, these final 4 games, you talk about Austin Hooper, not checking into the all-inclusive, not getting out the golf clubs, but rather showing up and doing his job because he's a professional and gets paid to be as much. Guys like, to me, nobody has more to prove than Jalen Polk. Like,
Mm.
there's been so much made of the fact that you can see that he's making mental errors, that he's thinking, he's not playing. This is a great stretch for him. Curran said on the radio the other day, I asked him a similar question, like, who would you like to see over the final 4 games show you something besides Drake May? And he said, Jalen Polk. Can you get 4 catches for 40 yards? Like, just let's do
Yeah.
baby steps. That would be a huge win for him. If he has 15 catches to 20 catches over the final 4 games for a couple hundred yards and maybe 1 touchdown, it might be, hey, the kid finally got out of his head and got back into his playbook, and he's turning his own proverbial ship around. It's guys like that I need to see something from the rest of the way.
It's very disappointing with Jalen Polk. He's 202nd in receiving yards in the entire league.
Two,
It is 202nd. I actually went through every single receiver in the league because I wrote about the rookie receivers a couple days ago, or
oh,
might have been yesterday, for WEEI.com. And I went through and I had to keep going through and being like, okay, am I on the proper group of 25 in the NFL? Yes, I am now at 202nd. That's where Jalen Polk is. And for me, I know we make so much out of the drops, but what's also scary is, again, this thing that's going on with all of the receivers,
mm-hmm.
which is the spacing. And that can't be something that's coached at this point. Like, I don't understand how you're in the 13th week and you have Jalen Polk, or the 12th week, whatever that game was.
Mm-hmm.
You have Jalen Polk essentially 2 feet behind Austin Hooper in the end zone with his
Right.
hands out, thinking that he's the guy who's supposed to be on that route. Or just freelancing because he sees the ball being released from Drake May's hands, so thinking that he's just going to make something happen. Like, that's some of the inconsistencies that go beyond the mental thing of just dropping the ball, where I go, where is this coming from? Like, now we're just kind of spinning out of control with somebody like Jalen Polk.
Yeah, like that was a big issue. I remember Dan Orlovsky made a big deal about the Matt Patricia offense, highlighting the spacing issues consistently throughout the season. And now you have to wonder, A, do we all owe Matt Patricia an apology for how that fact that offense has lapped the last two offenses of the Patriots? Although this offense, Alex Van Pelt, starting to build a little positive momentum, like on the needle of you got to go, or maybe you'll be back. Maybe we'll keep you around in town. I think Van Pelt is more keep you around as opposed to kick rocks without socks. I
I
think
do
he's gonna,
too. I do too. I think some of it, sorry, Fitzy, is just
yeah,
a little
please.
bit about the availability of institutional knowledge that you can put around Ron Mayo. I
Mhm.
think if you keep Van Pelt, I'd still like to see more additions because
Sure.
there's just not enough league knowledge in the office right now. And I think it's still, as we talked about to start the pod, too many people learning on the job.
All right, here's a good. All right, so Jeff Stenberg, who obviously lobbied in with a comment earlier, Jalen Polk just needs confidence. Unfortunately, he won't get that from pessimistic New England fans. He needs the Trey Turner standing ovation treatment. Time to show him some love. Listen, he'll probably get a Bronx cheer to Jeff and all Pats fans at the next home game if he were to make a big catch. But after that, like, just go out and perform. Don't do less. Do less talking on social media. Do less chirping at the locker. Say less, fam. When it comes to your coach, your positional coaches, and in the media, just go do your talking on the field. That's all people want to see. This is a blue collar sports crowd. They just want to see hard work and results. That's it. Make them proud doing a job like that, as opposed to these bizarre IG stories that he puts up all the time. Like, I don't want to have to decipher anything. You just go decipher the soft spot in the Tampa 2 and catch the ball when Drake May delivers it to you.
And I do think that this coming game is a really big opportunity for the offense because you're seeing a defense that's as inconsistent as yours has been. And so, yeah, Drake May is coming off of probably that. I know I'm being kind there, inconsistent. But you're seeing Drake May come off of probably his best performance in my opinion,
Mhm.
of the season. And he should be able to air it out a little bit. This is not a defense in the Cardinals that has been pick happy. I think they only have 6
Mhm.
takeaways, 6 picks, I should say, on the entire season.
Yeah, it's the 20th
So,
ranked overall defense as well. So
yeah.
they're in the back half, and it's the like 19th ranked pass defense and 20th ranked rush. So
So
the opportunities will be there.
I would expect a big and clean game from Drake May. And if you're looking for a game in the rest of the schedule where Jalen Polk can maybe start to figure something out, this week feels like it because I think
Mhm.
it's going to be a lot harder to do when you're seeing Buffalo in LA.
Right. It's a tough stretch. Now the Cardinals come into this game at 6-7. Pats are 3-10. Cardinals lose a gotta have it game last week. They're losers of the last 3 straight. They have a gotta have it game at home against the now NFC West division leading Seattle Seahawks. Although I still think the Rams are going to win that division because they've
Mm.
won 7 of their last 9. McVay's feeling himself. That defense is playing really good ball. And when the twin terrors of Cooper Cup, who killed my fantasy season last night, and Puka Nacua are healthy with Matthew Stafford upright, that's a dangerous. I don't think anybody in the playoffs would want to see the Rams at home or away at this point.
Can I bring something up to you, Fitzy? Just because you
Absolutely.
brought up Sean
Yep.
McVay feeling himself, which I very much agree. And the game last night was like not really my flavor, but I
Same.
stuck with it to the end.
Same.
What's going on with McVay's hair? We need an intervention there. He's got a lovely wife,
Yep.
and she needs to tell him that he's beginning to look like the 6-year-old who's walking out of Supercuts with the gel. Like, he's a handsome guy. He's got the hair.
He
He's got
is.
the hairline. Like, why not do something a little bit more updated, my guy? Like, you're not the lead singer of Sum 41 in 2004. What is going on?
I wasn't necessarily expecting a referendum on Sean McVay's hair, but then again, these are some of the
Frankly, it's become a distraction.
the digressions I should expect when I do a broadcast with you. I know he is a handsome guy. He's like annoyingly put together. He's super
Yeah.
smart, remembers
That's
literally every play they've ever run,
that's
and the
why the hair
coverages.
is so strange.
I got to tell you, he's got a long, bright coaching future ahead of him. And whenever that guy wants to do TV, He when he goes in the booth in alongside insert name of play-by-play guy here for either Fox, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, wherever, he's going to absolutely crush. He is going to absolutely crush.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I gotta say, I mean, to me, it's like if Cliff Kingsbury showed up on the sidelines in Skechers, you're like, everything else makes sense. What
No,
is
he
this?
wears like Ferragamos. Like
That's what I'm saying.
he
There's
spends on
something
himself.
there's one part of it that doesn't make sense, and it's that hair gel, the
Yeah.
LA looks or something. He can't get rid of it.
All right, so we just lost Sports Clips and Supercuts as possible six ring sponsors. Oh well, always making friends here, talking Foxborough football and Sean McVay's hair. Okay, couple funny comments came in by the way while we were talking about McVay's hair. Frank Sarah, who's watching the podcast live right now on the Fitzy GFY socials, says make sure not to draft any University of North Carolina wide receivers over the next 4 years. Oh, Belichick catching a stray. That's funny because it's true. And also Joey Zaguire, the Patriots should do what the Eagles did way back in 1976, hold open tryouts. We need to find the next Vince Papale. Listen, we're not above anything at this point. Like,
try anything.
Go ahead. Whatever would do. Here's a good question. Let's get to this before we do our game preview and prediction. Have either Joe McBride watching live on YouTube right now as we record the latest Six Rings podcast, have either of you seen anything where you want Mayo back? He's coming back, guys. Listen, everything that they publish in Boston Sports Journal, we talked about on the radio this week. Tom Curran weighed in on it as well. Even Bedard went on the other sports station and said 85% chance Mayo's coming back. This is just sort of the organization may be put more on notice regarding how the final 4 games go if it's a complete tire fire. I don't expect them to come out, be tepid, unprepared. And if they are, that is an indictment on all the coaches, all the coordinators, and most especially Gerard Mayo, Mego. And I saw a piece in the Globe today that said it's time for the Patriots to start doing the organization and their fans justice and play fearlessly. And that's all I can ask. I am just a fan currently hosting a podcast, usually standing in the parking lot or on the Jumbotron saying, just play without fear. You have nothing to lose but games. And
you're just a guy 2 weeks from Christmas standing in front of Gerard Mayo asking for him to go for it on 4th down.
That's all. That's all. Honestly,
I agree. I think it's really frustrating because Gerard does coach in a very safe manner. And it's almost like, do you understand what you have at quarterback? And I think it even goes back to the decision that they made to hold Drake for 5+ weeks from starting was a safe decision. And maybe it was the right one because he looks great now. So maybe he would have been a total mess if you threw him in there in week 2 or 3. Who knows? Maybe you would have a better record at this point and he would be further along. There's no way to know. But I agree with you. Is there anything that I see that makes me definitely want Gerard back? I will say that I do believe that the players connect with him. I do think that the players have a lot of respect for him as a former player and for what he's trying to do. I just think there's so much disorganization down there among everybody. And there's such a lack of talent on the roster that even if you go in with the right mentality and you're imparting that on your players and you're communicating well with them and you're running practices well and you are being a hard ass through training camp, which Gerard was, it doesn't really matter if you don't have the pieces for it to come together. And I think that's why he keeps saying the phrase winning fixes everything, which is true.
It is.
Like, in a way, I think it is taking the heat off himself a little bit of like, well, I don't really have the pieces to win right now, which again is true. I just think that he does, because of how bad the situation is this year, that the Crafts put him in, he does deserve another opportunity next year. Beyond that, I'm done. Like, I'm not doing the Mac Jones, we need to see you with yet another coordinator. We need to see you with this or that. But should they bring him back next year, which like you and Bedard and Curran, I believe that they will. Should they bring him back next year, they need to do the Joe Mazzulla route of surrounding him with people who are more experienced.
Charles Davis,
more experienced than him. He needs more experience around him. And if you don't like that setup, I'm sorry to tell you, I think that's the only way that they can go forward and be successful with him.
1,000,000%. I know some people have been saying in the live chat recording the pod today that we're making too much sense here today. And it's just time for some very simple, straightforward, frank talk. You have to play fearlessly with the guys you have to figure out who's going to be part of the solution, not the problem next year. But for anybody to just be like, that's it, I'm done with him. I don't like the interviews. I don't like the fact he calls him soft and walks it back. He's indecisive. He's trying to figure out exactly how he should compose himself and comport himself on game days in the teams. There's a lot going on, and I'm sure he would be the first one to tell you, wow, this is so much more difficult than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
But
I
to
think
not surround him with that talent is doing him and the organization a disservice.
Yeah, they need to go out and really secure some talent on the roster. And I see like Joe McBride in the chat right now is throwing in Vrabel is available. What about Dayball? Yeah, if you can bring someone in that has a good relationship with Gerard and you make him the assistant head coach and you add somebody who's going to be his bears. And I know that there's people in the operation who are doing some versions of these jobs.
Yeah,
But
Evan
somebody
Rothstein is his Ernie Adams.
is Ernie Adams. I mean, any head coach needs a ton of support around them. And for a rookie head coach like him, I think he just needs that much more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Pat Stats watching live on YouTube right now. Kraft will allocate an enormous amount of cash to ensure Mayo's successful players, coaches, front office. He doesn't want to be wrong here. No lies detected in that comment. I agree.
Yeah.
They do not want the egg on their face. There were stories about some of the organization weren't as high on him. This is a Robert choice. And as Robert continues to try to rewrite a little history or make sure that, his stamp is on things and not just the stamp of Brady or Belichick or others, and vie for the Hall of Fame while he's alive, you're damn right he's going to want to do everything he can to make sure that the Gerard Mayo pick works out. So here's 4 games to build some confidence from the players in potential free agents, people that they draft, and most importantly, your fans. So Sunday, 4:25 in the PM Eastern Standard Time on the Tiffany Network, the central broadcasting system. You have Tom McCarthy, Jay Feely, and Ross Tucker himself on the broadcast.
Oh, okay. Friend of WEEI, Ross Tucker.
That's right. He knows his good beers and barbecue like a former player should. They really just keep throwing all the A teams at the Patriots, Mego. Each and every. I mean, if it's not Spiro Ditas, it's Tom McCarthy, it's Chris Myers, it's they're going to go the whole rookie Gerard Mayo year without having Tom Brady call a game.
Isn't that crazy?
It is.
They're literally just not up to par for Brady to be in the booth. That is so that in itself is got to be something that just really pisses off the Crafts, and they can't unveil the statue because he's not going to come to town.
No, it's getting pushed to 2025 now because they're not going to get Brady on the broadcast. And after all the laurels they threw his way and money for June 12th, 2024, they're still not going to get Brady back in town. Side note, I think we talked about this on the radio this week. Brady definitely evolved as a broadcaster last week when he was calling out the Bills. Hoarse voice Brady was best Brady in the booth.
Yeah, Brady calling out how to kill basically a 1-minute drill is just exactly why you have Brady in the booth. That's why you have him, not because he has the chiseled face of a man 20 years younger or because of the name recognition. I mean, that's a big part of it. But the way how natural and commanding he was on those particular calls, I think was definitely the highlight of the season so far.
So yeah, here we go. Here's another. We need a better GM. It's hard to make chicken soup out of this roster. I mean, the Elliott Wolf got the quarterback right.
Yeah.
However, did not get the rest of it right. There's a lot of people that we probably want to see more from the rest of the way. Can Layden Robinson hold up? Javon Baker. I'm disappointed in general with him, let alone the fact that he's got a bye-week concussion and is likely not to be out there this week as well.
So odd.
Super weird.
That he's not been practicing and that he's in concussion protocol according to the injury report. So keep an eye on that. I think it's strange.
I have a friend who is watching live, my friend KJ in Los Angeles, who's watching live right now as we record our latest Six Rings podcast, and sends this text to me. I'm live fact-checking your Six Rings podcast, which is currently streaming on Twitter. You referred to CBS as the Central Broadcasting System when it's actually Columbia Broadcasting
How
Systems.
dare
Do better.
you?
God, everybody. My apologies, everyone. Next Gansett is on Fitzy. Sorry about that, everybody.
God, this is so embarrassing for us.
Truly. I did call
This
it
is
the
supposed to
Tiffany
be
Network, though. I know, right?
a professional operation. Can't you see the microphone that I have? This is a professional microphone.
Oh, sure, Fitzy.
Sure.
All right. So Sunday's game, 425 in the desert, State Farm Stadium, site of Super Bowl 49 and another big game that happened allegedly. Your New England Patriots are 4.5-point road dogs in what likely is the most winnable of the final four games.
Mm.
The most winnable because after this, you go to Frozen Helms Deep in Buffalo. Then you come home for Khakis Gym and a glass of whole milk with Herbie. Chargers Patriots on the 29th, although it may get moved to the 28th still. We'll see if that gets flexed over. And then you wrap the season next year against Buffalo. And who knows if Buffalo is playing for very much in that
Yeah,
game
so
because they
that
could
could
have
be a
the turf
winnable
reset.
game. That
It could
last
be.
one.
I would say this is definitely the most winnable of the games. It's an over-under of 46. Patriots obviously bottom offensive line, more changes being made. Cole Strange comes back. There's competition at the kicker. Drake May had a week off. I do want to play this. This is one thing that gives me not cause for concern, but tells me, Mego, that maybe, just maybe, the Patriots are going to play more aggressively. This is Drake May replying to a question this week at a Pats media meet and greet about how the way the season is going and if it's weighing on him.
Yeah, I think everybody's got some urgency. You want to be, nobody wants a season like this year again. I think it's 2 years in a row of a season like this, and you start to worry. So I think there's definitely some urgency, and you see it in those guys, and you see it especially in the veterans, and especially me and the quarterback. As a quarterback, there's an emergency to get to that point and fix these things or work on them and get better, and use these last 4 games as.
All right, so stepping stone, however you want to get to where you want to go. Baby steps. Okay, I agree with that. Urgency, good, but you don't want another season like that. Does that give you any cause for concern? Or is that just good to hear that from a competitor? It didn't bother me, but I know some people it bothered.
Like in terms of him showing some kind of impatience?
Uh-huh.
No, I don't think so at all. Look, I was in the room for that, and I've been in the room with May after these losses, and
Mhm.
he looks like I've said this before on the radio. He looks pretty mad and frustrated after these losses, which is what you want. I don't think that you want a young quarterback who can clearly feel what he is so far in the league
Mhm.
wanting to be extremely patient. You want a competitor. I think that that's the right note to strike, to say that there's a standard that we're going to set here, and
Mhm.
it's not going to be back-to-back seasons of this.
Right.
How would you feel if you heard him up there saying, "Well, I trust in everybody here, and we're going to take our time
Mhm.
to figure out who we are." You'd be like, "What the hell? Like, what is
Yeah,
this?"
you're supposed to be a competitor, dude. I thought you were
Exactly.
like this, but he hasn't really lost before. Like he's probably lost more games this year than he has the last 2 seasons at UNC, and given his athletic pedigree, probably in all of his high school days. So you can see that that's bothering him. To
And
which I say, good. It
that's the
should.
case. Yeah, that's the case with a lot of highly drafted quarterbacks, right? It's just the nature of
Mhm.
when you get into one of these teams and they're
Right.
in that position for a reason. And I know it looks this year like, oh, look at what Washington's doing. Why couldn't you do that? And look what the Texans did last year. Why couldn't you do that?
Mhm.
Well, if you look back through the history of these highly drafted picks and first time head coaches, that is actually much more uncommon than it showed over the last 2 years.
Correct. All right. So what do you how do you see this one playing out, Mega?
So I see this as being, I guess, the closest that the Patriots can come to a shootout,
Mhm.
because both of these defenses, as we talked about a little bit earlier in the pod, are basically in the bottom quarter, the bottom
Mhm.
quartile of the league,
Correct.
both in the ground game and the passing game. So I could see this coming out to, do you want me to give a score yet?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I see this 27-24 Cardinals. I mean, I could really see that score flipped either way, but I'm just
Mhm.
gonna go a little bit more safely and
That's a
say that
loss. I can get behind a loss like that.
So it's frustrating for me because I would really like to see the Patriots get above 25 points with Drake May through an entire game, and you haven't had that yet. But you're
Mhm.
going up against a Cardinals defense who is very inconsistent, as I said before. And you have Kyler Murray,
Kyle Murray.
I call him Kyle. That's his nickname.
Mhm.
Kyler Murray coming off of a game where he threw back-to-back picks,
Mhm.
and as you said, a 3-game losing streak. The Cardinals have a teeny bit more to play for. If they beat the Patriots, they have a 10% chance of making the playoffs. If they lose to the Patriots, they have a 2% chance of making the playoffs.
Yeah, because the Seahawks are in first place now, and Zach Charbonnet, if he were still allowed to be, would be running all over the Cardinals like he did last week
Mhm.
in place of Kenneth Walker. So that should give some hope that there could be some running lanes for the Patriots. But then again, Seattle has a better offensive line than the Patriots do. I doubt Cole Strange can fix all 5 spots coming
Yeah.
back. And we'll see if he even gets in at center, which could be interesting.
So what I think is going to happen here is I think
Mhm.
you're going to have both quarterbacks, Drake and Kyle/Kyler, running a ton, and I have no
Take the over on both of their running props, big
Yes,
time.
I have no confidence that the Patriots defense can contain Kyler Murray.
No.
I've seen no evidence of it throughout the season. I know Christian Barmore is getting more snaps, getting healthier, which is great, but I just don't think that you have the makeup or anything there in the way that you've been playing to be able to contain him. So I think it's going to be a nice quarterback show for both sides. My
Mhm.
biggest fear overall looking at this game is that you have the Cardinals playing with desperation because there's just a tiny bit on the line for them. And you have the Patriots on the other side playing for professionalism.
Mhm.
And that just
Right.
doesn't really drive you
Or
to an
or
upset.
jobs. Or I mean,
Yeah.
when you look at what the Patriots have to contend with as well, who do you put on Trey McBride, who technically is their best pass catcher? Now, Marvin Harrison Jr. should be, but he hasn't had the rookie year yet that we
Trey
thought he would.
McBride is quite underrated.
Very underrated. So do you lock him now? Do you double him and then put Gonzo on? Are you going to play a zone? You put Gonzo individually on Marvin Harrison. Do you put Gonzo on Trey McBride, double Marvin Harrison, or assign him maybe Alex Austin, which is a tall task? But he's been pretty good. I think he's actually lobbying to get some time in place of a John Jones next year. Should John Jones sign somewhere else? Uh,
Mhm.
it's tough. James Conner, speaking of underrated, super underrated running back. Somehow that guy finds the end zone double digits every year. I always just sort of thought he was a Steeler for life. Turns out he's a really good professional running back. So Cardinals can score with the best of them as well. And I agree. I'm way in on the rushing props for both quarterbacks. Just for the hell of it, I'm just because I want a take that I can mock on the post-game show Sunday, and we will be live on WEEI 7:30 when the game is over. I'll take the over and Pats on the money line. I don't know.
Oh,
Give me, you know what? How about this? I'll even set it up like this. Give me
okay.
Joey Sly this time hitting the 68-yard field goal
Oh my
indoors.
God. Getting hyper specific. I don't even think there's a prop out there. So you'll
There
have to
isn't.
call one of the books to make it up for you.
Why not? If Bill Simmons can always call for a prop on one of the books on his show, then why can't I as well? So I got Pats 24, Cardinals 23. I think it's going to be
Okay.
I think it's actually going to be a fun watch. I think
I do too.
this should be a fun game to watch.
I think, it's going to be just an offensively dominated game. I'm not sure
Mhm.
that the defenses are going to be able to stop very much on either side because, like I said, they're pretty similar.
Mhm.
I think what I'm really looking forward to is one, hopefully, there being more of a split duo of Ramondre Stevenson and Antonio Gibson making up a lot of the ground game. And I think this is a defense that they'll be able to run on. And I like Antonio Gibson. I think that I would actually like to see him
Mhm.
be a little bit of like,
Split
I
him
don't
out
know,
wide. Let's flex him. Let's
get
flex him
him
out.
or just like a couple little crack tosses and get him
Mhm.
out there because I think that's kind of where he moves best in space and where you see some
Right.
of his like fun spin moves that he unlocks at times.
This is
Um,
where Ramondre does his best work. Antonio Gibson does his best work out there. That's why I'm saying I'd split him out wide, put him in motion. You say a crack toss, just something. He's great with like screen passes when he's in space.
yeah.
He's far more dangerous.
Yeah, and so I'd like to see a little bit of that, and then, of course, the biggest thing coming off of the, Colts game, they gotta execute in the red zone without penalties. That going 2 for 6, just incredibly, incredibly frustrating, and I think that if you can go do anything better than that, show that you have any progress there, and maybe utilize somebody like Hunter Henry, who I've talked about this a million times, back in 2021 was your biggest red zone weapon when he was with
Right.
Mac Jones, and for whatever reason has just completely vanished from that area, and it's frustrating.
Yeah, and Hunter Henry is definitely one of the 10 I would keep next year. Talk about professionalism and somebody who on a regular basis can be counted on to do his job.
Mhm.
Big fan. You know what? We'll end on this. Wouldn't it be nice? Gonzo with an interception at the 2-yard line for the win. That would be a most appropriate finish given the venue of this Sunday's football
Be a
game. Yeah,
long
and
long sprint for him. Is that a pick 6 or just a pick?
just picks it at the end of the game
Okay, I was gonna say
with
that's
the
a
Cards
long
going
return.
for the win.
I'd be okay with him picking it off just
Gonzo,
anywhere on the
go!
field running back.
You know what? And you know what, Steve Tower? Yes, let's open up the playbook. Why not? Let's see what the current players can do. I couldn't agree more. All right, there we go. That has been your most recent 6 Rings in Football Things. What an absolute honor and delight to have the legend of Mego, Miss Megan Onalini, who you can follow on the Twitter platform at Megan_Onalini. Have you blue skied it yet?
I have. So I'm just Meg 0 on there. So it's like Meg O.
You're
What?
Meg Zero. I
Meg
love it.
0.
Okay. I mean, we're all on Threads. You can find her on IG as well. But you know, when we're on IG, sometimes we put personal photos up there as well. So if you're going to follow us or stalk us over there, try to be nice, everybody. Yes, I have Christmas trees. Yes, I have kids. Yes, I have hopes and dreams too. But if you want bad sports takes and dad jokes, it's at Fitzy GFY. This has been your latest and greatest 6 Rings in Football Things. Mego will definitely be joining us more frequently with Andy Hart on his afternoon show obligations. So when you're available, this will be a delight. From our dogs, our offices, our studios, and our holiday thresholds, we wish you all a great week 15 in the NFL. Take care. God bless. Give us a follow. Tell your friends about the pod. And as always, go.